when I looked up this game, like Steam recommended it, and I was like, I guess it looks interesting. The reviews look promising. There's actually one review that I read the review, and I was like, I don't know anything else about this game, but this review is making me buy this, unquestioningly. And the review said something like, this game lets me shoot a shotgun, but the real weapon is melancholy. And I can see that now. Welcome back. Today we're going to be playing Adios. This game is intriguing to me because the Steam description is, a pig farmer decides he no longer wants to dispose of bodies for the mob. What follows is a discussion between him and his would-be killer. All of that sounds intriguing to me, which is why we're here. This is why we're here. So, having said that, tell him I'm done. Ooh. This is very, like, stylistic. Reminds me of Pinkerton. Pink something. Very famous.
I can't do this anymore.
Serial killer from Canada.
This.
What, mornings?
No. All of this.
Is this
The
us?
deal.
Afraid so.
What do you mean? You need better pay, different hours?
No, nothing like that. I'm just, you know, done with this.
Uh-huh. Okay. You wanna...
This is already so stylistic. It's adorable, even though the content is, like, not great. Just like the way it's all animated and the voice acting. I'm keeping you waiting. Do I want to what? No or yeah, sure? Sure? I don't know what I'm being asked.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, I'll help him. Oh.
So, you're done, huh?
Yep. Oh,
You do understand what that means, right?
Does it mean anything? Does it mean anything?
does it have to mean anything?
Oh!
It doesn't work like that. You know that.
I must be getting forgetful in my old age.
Uh-huh. Nothing I can do to change your mind.
You're welcome to try. Nope, I'm afraid not. These can I pause? These characters feel like they have a connection, like they're friends. And even though they're doing something terrible, we're throwing bodies into the pigs. Again, very Pinkton. Don't quote me on that. Very Pinkton. Even though we're doing a terrible thing, it's almost like their relationship is something good that came out of it, and therefore, by losing that relationship, they're losing something good. So it's like a complicated relationship in that way. You're welcome to try.
You're welcome to try.
Well, let's go get some coffee. Talk things over. Come on.
Well, don't I have to finish the task that I was doing? Apparently not. This is so ominous. The breakfast.
Smells delicious as always.
Sadie was the real cook.
Hey, don't sell yourself short. Not much that's better than your home-cooked eggs.
What happened to Sadie?
Hope you don't mind. I left out the bell peppers this time.
Can't stand them.
So we know this character's preferences even with food. There's a lot to know about a person. Me either. Sadie liked peppers, no jalapenos. Let's talk more about Sadie. We talked about Sadie as though they were a partner of ours that's gone.
Sadie always liked peppers, though, so I put up with them.
Not to change the subject, but how long we been doing this for, you think?
15 years, just about.
Wow.
Summer of 78. Why'd we meet? What was it?
78 plus 15. 80. No, 90. That'd be what, 93? Needed cash, Bill was sick. Talking about a person feels like it'd be more meaningful than talking about cash. So let's talk about Bill.
Bill was sick.
And you couldn't afford a doctor.
Oh. We couldn't. So this character that we're talking to is purposely using your language, like you couldn't do this, you can do that. But when we respond, we're saying we, either Bill and I or Sadie and I. Like, that's very purposefully, it feels like this character is making it about us. And we're saying, no, this isn't about us. This is about me plus these other people in my life. We couldn't, or we'd have managed. We'd have managed implies that we don't have to do this work. There are other ways that we could have done that. Let's go with that.
We'd have managed.
But you didn't think so at the time.
Inherently. If we made that choice at the time, we inherently didn't believe that. Or we had a hard time believing it. So much so that having that money made it feel possible. Suppose not, or couldn't risk it. Ooh. Or that the life of the person that we were caring about was so important that we didn't feel like it was possible to lose them. Like, we as a person would be shattered if they were gone.
I couldn't take the chance.
Well, here's what I remember. I had a problem that night, and Jimmy was trying to help me solve that problem when who should come in through that door but you?
Yeah, so I thought Jimmy could help. There's so many responses about people and these connections that we have with other people. I feel like those are often the responses that I'm gravitated towards, because we're built for connection. And so talking about other people inherently reveals more about our relationships and our connections with these other people.
Jimmy was always bragging about connections back home. I thought he could help.
Jimmy knew we could help each other, so he called up Tony. We agreed, made a deal. We all agreed. Ugh. Anyone ever tell you you're no good at making coffee?
Sadie did, or you did. Again, I feel like talking about Sadie. I feel like Sadie is probably a big part of why, it's a big part of our motivations.
Sadie did. All the time.
Thought you'd have got it better by now.
Well, Sadie made the coffee. I made the bacon.
It's good bacon. You know, when I was a kid, I thought pigs were all pink with curly tails.
Yorkshires are. Mine are red wattle. American breed. Not a lot of them out there, you know.
That's so.
Mm-hmm. Always thought it'd be nice, you know, to raise pigs that was different. I had some Yorkies way back. Must have been, I don't know, before the service.
Service.
Long time ago.
Yeah, I'm an old man.
You and me both. So why the Waddles? Funny name.
Like I said, American breed. Nearly went extinct. Thought I'd do my part to keep them alive. And that tastes good.
You aren't wrong. You know, the other day, I was reading the paper.
Look at you, an intellectual.
Maybe. Anyways, I read that pigs were as smart as us. You believe that?
Nope, I want that fork. I realized that it feels weird for us to like sit here and talk with food in front of us and to not eat at all. But there's not prompts to like eat like there was with the meat. Inherently, that's probably a good thing. Do we believe that pigs are as smart as us? They have these actual tests that they have to measure intelligence, like a mirror test and things like that. I'm pretty sure that pigs are pretty smart. Going somewhere with this? I suppose so, or not particularly. Yeah, let's ask about you. Are you going somewhere with this?
You, going somewhere with this?
Nah, just thinking about my food.
What's there to think about?
Nothing, I suppose. Just never thought about it before. Do you think the pigs know?
Know what?
That they're food.
Oh, pigs don't think like that.
How do you know?
'Cause I know pigs. Pigs ain't like us. Well, sure, they're smart. They eat, they sleep, but they do not plan. They don't think about the future.
And I suppose you do?
Every man does.
I think I'm just about finished up here. What do you say I accompany you today?
There's this implication that if we are no longer helping, I'm assuming the mob based on the Steam description, if we're no longer helping the mob, then we're a liability. And then are we allowed to exist anymore? And it sounds like this character is also really sad about that, hence why they want to convince us to not make that choice, to keep doing what we're doing. What? Or seriously? Seriously? Like, do you want to... I mean, because either they're going to try to convince us to keep doing this job, or they're going to be the ones to do it, to kill us, I guess.
What, help out with the farm chores? Shovel manure, milk goats, stuff like that?
Sure. Always wanted to know how to milk goats.
As long as you're okay with shoveling manure first.
In your suit?
What about your sidekick?
Protege. When I retire, he'll be the man you'll be dealing with. Good guy. Smart. Discreet. Ambitious.
Like you, I guess. But, listen. I told you already. I'm quitting.
We'll see.
To phrase it that way about a protege, though, implies that we will be around to see that happen, but we already said we're not sticking around. It's almost like this character is so confident that they can convince us otherwise. So I'm assuming these are our tasks, our farm tasks. I'm also curious then about... Our character said, like, what is this? Sand? Like, we think about the future. But if we're a farmer, if we get killed by the mob because we refuse to help them anymore, who would take care of the animals? Right? We goats, pigs, all these things. I hope when they say that, they mean that they
I've always wondered what was in this shack.
have a plan for who's going to take care of that stuff.
Just some old shack at first, but every time I asked what was in there, you haven't been forthcoming.
I have not, no.
Tried to take a look in the window once.
Did you now?
There's also something really creepy about if bodies have been fed to the pigs and the pigs have been used for food. That feels wrong. Did you not pull the cord or don't pull the cord? Pull the cord?
Ta-da!
Oh.
Beautiful, right?
Pop machines. Here I figured you had a deep, dark secret.
It is a deep, dark secret.
This here is one of my hobbies.
What, collecting them?
Well, sure, I collect them, I guess, but that's not really the point.
Is there a point to any hobby?
It depends.
Depends on the emotions connected to it.
Just collect them, I fix them up. That's where the real fun is.
Makes sense.
I mean, we can sit here and say like, oh, any hobby is the same as any other hobby, but it's all about the emotions connected to it, right? Let's say that these soda machines are connected to Sadie or Bill or whoever these people are from our past. That inherently has more emotional meaning to it than just any old hobby. You got any hobbies? You look like you want to ask me something. Yeah, what do you want to, if that's the look, right? What do you want to ask?
You look like you want to ask me something.
Why pop machines?
I like a good soda pop.
And the jump from that to having a bunch of machines in a blacked out shed?
I used to work at the town library after school, and somebody thought it would be a good idea to put in a pop machine. 50, 51,
Damn.
thereabouts. Anyways, it was cantankerous, as these things tended to be, especially back then.
It's not a word you hear very often.
Oh, Mrs. Olson. She was the librarian at the time. Knew I was handy, asked me to fix it.
And you've been fixing pop machines ever since?
Well, not exactly. Didn't think much of it for years until after some time I got back from overseas, and I was at this junkyard, and I saw a Kruger Schmidt.
A what?
A Kruger Schmidt. Yeah, I jumble the words, I know, probably French or something.
Probably not French.
Sounds German.
German.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Anyways, it looked so dilapidated that I just had to take it home and fix it. Of course, you know how the wife is. She just about threw a hissy fit. But I brought her to this here shed and got to work. Fixed her up real nice,
Then what?
Had myself a nice pop. And then I sold it and figured that was all there was to it. But then there was an auction in town and someone was selling a pair of Vendos. Well, I figured, hey, I could fix that too.
And it snowballed from there.
That it did.
But why?
It relaxes me.
I don't know, soda machines. It's an unusual thing for a man to want to fix. Don't people get paid to fix them?
It is unusual, but when the missus and I would get into fights, or when things was bad, or I was anxious, well, I don't know. Well, Sadie's sister, once she passed, told me that it was all right to cry, that it wasn't weakness, that it was okay, and
All of those are
I
true.
remember sitting there in that empty living room with everyone murmuring and telling me how sorry they were, and I didn't feel like I needed to cry.
Didn't you miss her?
Of course I did. Still do, but I don't know. Not everybody needs to cry. I don't need to cry. I don't get in that way, you know? Weakness? No. I don't know what she was talking about, weakness. Crying never felt weak to me. That's just not how I am.
I can't remember the last time I cried. Maybe that movie about the boy and his dogs.
Old Yeller?
I always cry over that one. Dogs are good. Innocent. Yeah, when a dog dies, that always moves me to tears.
Dogs can't protect
Josie
themselves.
insisted. Then she kept insisting. Then, I don't know. I think she got offended I wouldn't cry, as if she loved Sadie more than me. And she made me feel like I was something wrong. Of course, that wasn't true. There wasn't nothing wrong with me. I just didn't, I wasn't like that. It wasn't what I needed. It wasn't how I needed to grieve.
Yeah.
This is how I grieve, this right here. When I got a problem, I fix it. And when I fix it, I fix a little part of me. And I don't know how or why, but it's healing. It's a healing thing, and that's why a man's got to have a hobby.
Sorry,
No, it's all right. I figured, you know. I figured if someone's got to know, this is my quiet little hobby. A thing I do to help me work out my worries.
well, yeah, looks like you fixed this one up real nice.
I'm proud of it. Proud of all of them. But I'm proud of this one most.
Thank you for taking the time to show me.
There's another reason I wanted to show this to you.
I feel like there is a lot in there, and if I don't stop to talk about it, my brain will not hold on to the information. When these characters talk, I can't know for sure. The character that we're talking to, I don't know their name. I can't know for sure how old they are. This character talks about being in a war, and they met up in 78, if I remember right, and they've worked together for 15 years. They talk as though they are older and they have accepted that they are going to die. There are different stages of development that we know about as we go through life. So an example of that would be when we are a teenager. The normal kind of stage of development that we're at that age is when we're trying on different identities or trying to figure out who we may be when we're an adult. But when we get older, the stage of development that we get to is less about ourselves. Like the importance, the priorities that we care about, the older we get, is less about us as an individual, and it's more about community good. So what often happens then once we get older is we start passing on stories. We start caring more about what our kids will have, like that kind of stuff, because that is community good. And I think a lot of that is connected to the idea of like knowing and accepting that we're not always going to be around. But if we're not always going to be around, how can we still make an impact? How can we still help others? And I think that's where the idea of storytelling is often a big part, because when I think of storytelling as far as like families gathered around and telling each other stories, I often think of older generations. And I don't mean that as like boomers or something. I mean that more like just whoever is often like the oldest person in the family. They're often the ones who will tell stories of people who aren't around anymore or back in my day kind of things. And that's just because I think that when we get to that, like developmentally, once we get to a certain age, it's less about us as an individual continuing to figure out who we are and more about what about community good. And so we see these stories happen more when we get to that stage of our life. And I think it is this idea of how can I pass on lessons that I have learned to another generation through story, or just so I'm not forgotten, or whatever it is, like whatever the purpose is behind that story. That's what this feels like. It feels like, how can I pass on something to this person? Because these two characters have worked together for 15 years. They don't talk as though there's animosity. They talk as though they have been bonding. They talk about it almost like this is a bit of like an adopted son. As far as this hobby goes of repairing things, it is grief. As far as, you know, our character mentioned that Sadie passed away. So Sadie was the wife, and Sadie passed away. And at the funeral, or something around the funeral, the sister mentioned, like, you know, it's okay to cry. Crying's not a weakness. That idea is still prevalent today, especially with men, which is unfortunate, because crying is just expressing an emotion. It is not a weakness, and having emotion is not a weakness. And it sounds like he recognized that, but he didn't have maybe the words to say, this isn't why I'm not crying. This isn't weakness. Or maybe she just didn't understand. And I get the impression that maybe he's always just been the kind of person where fixing things was just maybe how he showed affection. And so once grief set in for him, he just continued to show affection through like acts of service, if you want to talk about love languages, or just doing things. And when he did things, he felt productive, or he felt like he was doing something that was helpful. And through that's how he worked through his grief. There's no right or wrong way to work through grief. It doesn't have to be about crying. And it sounds like that was the disconnect between his sister-in-law and him, was that she felt like if you weren't crying, you're not actually processing through your grief. And he saw it as, there's no right or wrong way to grieve, and this is how I grieve. I do think that a lot of these ideas are also an element of generational trauma too. A lot of the lessons, like when you think about like mathematically, the age that if he was born in the 50s, hypothetically, so he was old enough to have a farm in the 70s, and so on and so forth, his parents would have been products of the Great Depression. And oftentimes what happens as far as generational trauma is you have people maybe who lived through the Great Depression. That by itself is traumatic. And maybe they develop ways of coping through that trauma that helps them survive those traumatic experiences. But then it doesn't help so much out of that trauma. But then they end up teaching those things to their kids. And maybe some of that stuff is about fixing stuff. And that's how you deal with trauma, or that's how you deal with grief. And like, we can't show weakness. And that stuff gets passed on to characters like this. And then that stuff gets passed on to any kids that this character might have had. So things like you can't cry, or there's only one way to grieve. These societal norms, things that society thinks of as normal, can often be a part of generational trauma too. But we don't think of it that way because society often has a huge amount of stigma towards mental health and trauma in general. And shit, like how much would we have even talked about mental health in the 20s or the 50s or things like that? And that's a part of stigma too, or lack of knowledge in general. I guess like pick your description with that.
What's that?
If you want it, it's yours.
What am I gonna do with a pop machine?
Well, grab yourself a nice, refreshing drink of soda every so often, you big
Like
dummy.
acts of service.
Wait,
I'm showing that I care by
Please.
giving you something that I have made or I have fixed.
Oh, come on, Memento. Let's keep this train rolling. We can work something out.
You come on back by, pick up the soda machine. Take it home with you. Or don't. If you really got no use for it, I won't be offended.
I'll think it over. What's next?
These characters have These characters have an inherent disagreement about what is happening here. The character that we are playing has already decided that they are dying and that they're not doing this anymore, which means that they're dying, right? That's kind of, I guess, the cause of it. We don't know why they're done. They just are. I mean, inherently what they're doing could be enough cause. I'm not saying that it's not. Because giving away things that you care about Like, if this is how he processed through the grief of his wife, this hobby by itself sounds like it could be a valuable thing for him, but then to give away valuable things can be a sign that someone is prepared to die, or preparing to die, or willing to die, those kinds of things. And that's how this character seems to be approaching this idea of like, this idea that you can't convince me to change my mind, and I know that I am not going to be living past today. But you are still meaningful to me, and you should take one of these things that is meaningful to me, almost like a memento, a way to remember me and our time together. Because even if you have to be the person who carries out a death sentence, that doesn't, like, two things can be true at the same time. So even if you have to be the person who does this, that doesn't negate all the positive things that we may have had for 15 years. It's incredibly sad. And the fact that the game is able to create this much emotion immediately says a lot for their storytelling. There's a random amount of things that we can pick up. Oh, can I put you away? I can't. I can get a soda. Here. Have a soda. Oh! Can I actually make it into your hand? Have a soda. I don't know where it went. What's this? Horseshoes? Are you gonna play a game of horseshoes? Why not? Yeah. There's probably another emotional connection to our past. It's probably meaningful in some way.
Well, why not horseshoes?
Doesn't it feel stereotypical?
Well, look around you. My nearest neighbor lives, half a mile down the road. It ain't the city. We don't have nightclubs and pool halls to go hang out at.
No internet, really.
What is this, 1890? This is 1992, friend.
Again, like, no real internet.
For teenagers, restaurants, clubs, whatever. But pool halls? I don't even know if they had those when I was a kid.
Damn.
Well, time doesn't pass out here as quickly, I suppose. No need for all that stimulation.
No need for the tic-tacs.
So you play horseshoes.
Mm-hmm. Or read a good book. Develop photos you took for yourself. Go fly fishing.
Mm-hmm. It sounds idyllic. Quaint, but idyllic. And you just want to give up this home-cooked paradise?
It's lonely, too. I'm just so tired because it's wrong. I can't choose those other ones. I wonder if that's based on the choices that I've chosen up until now. It is lonely. Like, I can see that being a farmer, how all the way in the middle of nowhere, and your wife passing away, we are built for connection.
That's lonely, too.
We could get you a nice place in the city.
Never was one for crowds.
Thought you said you were lonely.
I'd be just as lonely in a crowd. Sadie, nobody else could really see me, understand what I was.
How do you figure? What?
After Saigon, when I got back.
Oh.
All these people were hugging their loved ones or protesting or whatever, and I don't know. I never felt more alone in all my life. I was home. I should have been happy, and I wasn't.
Well, it wasn't a popular war. You lost friends too, right?
Yeah, but when I got home, it was dark, and there was Sadie, waiting for me. Porch light like a halo around her head. And I knew I wasn't alone anymore.
But then she's gone.
So you came back to your high school sweetheart.
Yeah. I thought he'd have married her by then. I didn't think she'd wait for me.
He.
Why not? You're a handsome guy. I bet all sorts wanted you, especially back then. Women love a man in uniform.
You see that house on the hill?
What, the burned out one? I always wondered what happened there.
Gary Gordon, of the Gordon family. went to high school with us. But, well, most of us were farm folk. Sadie, her dad, was the county judge, so for us that's pretty high society. The Gordons owned a lot of land, and all that passed to Gary after his ma died. In high school, he'd been our quarterback after his pa paid off the school, but he wasn't a bad athlete.
Good-looking guy?
Oh, a real James Dean. And he had eyes for Sadie. The poor farm boy who couldn't play on the team versus the star quarterback. Shit, what kind of contest was that?
Hey, who wouldn't want all this?
Man, yet when I came home, there she was.
Where was Gary? He served too?
Gary was too rich to serve.
Privilege.
Star quarterback had some health exemption. Didn't get drafted.
So then, where was he?
Running his dad's business. Trying to win her heart. Didn't work. Well, she invited him to the wedding.
Oh, shit.
I didn't want him there, but, well, you know Sadie. Well, the Gordons own most of the property around here, including the 200 acres surrounding that hill.
Right.
Oh.
And he built a house.
A house? Wait, that house?
The very same.
Looks like it was a mansion.
It was.
Why'd he build it?
I don't know. To remind her what she'd given up, maybe?
Right, where it
So?
can be seen.
What happened to the wealthy Gary Gordon in his mansion?
Well, he built it one year. Must have been 1966 or so, and he went inside and he just disappeared. Then one night, about a year later, there was a storm and boom, no more Gary Gordon.
Huh.
No more Gary Gordon.
Maybe he was lonely too.
Maybe. All right, you win. What next?
They mentioned his service. I didn't know what war. I mean, I knew it wasn't because of the timing. I guess I didn't know. I suspected most likely not World War II. What year was I got? Somewhere out there, there was a history teacher who was very upset with me. Or disappointed. I've learned about history, so Vietnam War was from 55 to 75. How? Fuck, history is stupid sometimes. Okay, I guess that makes more sense with what we're talking about here. So we are still moving manure, milking the goats, feeding the horses. Makes sense that Gordon would build the house where, first off, he could see Sadie, almost like, I'm keeping an eye on you because I don't trust whoever your name is, person you married, but also like, but you can see me and see what you missed. It's suspicious, though, that he just disappeared. It makes me wonder if the mob that we're working for had anything to do with it, but I don't think we were working with them until the 70s. So at that point, it feels like it would be Gordon's own involvement with the mob that could have had an impact on that. Also, I won horseshoes, so. Such a, like,
Don't you own a tractor?
movie, like, dramatic, like, title that they pop up. What or what's that got to do with anything? Yeah, but that's not the same as doing it yourself, especially in your last day.
What's that got to do with anything?
Hi.
Well, pigs, I get. Goats, too. Some fellas have chickens and cows. That's all well and good, but
I can't pet you.
what's the point of a horse?
Horses
Excuse me?
are God's most beautiful creatures.
They're
What,
pretty.
you just keep a horse around because they're beautiful?
And
Horses
pets.
belong on farms.
Uh-huh. You haven't got a saddle for him, so you don't ride him.
You're so good horse.
No racehorse. Can't eat him. What's the point?
I don't see the point in a farm without a horse. Gotta have a horse.
It's like he's never heard of a pet before.
And what's this about them being beautiful?
Can I
Beautiful.
give you the...
Really?
There.
Beautiful, he says. Spindly legs and bloated bellies and those weird teeth. Sleep standing up. Who sleeps standing up? Something wrong with that. Aren't you going to say something?
You are very purpose driven. If there's not a purpose, then what's the point? is okay to take these small moments in life and just enjoy them for the enjoyment. Horses are pretty. What is wrong with you? I want to feed you another apple.
One day.
Yeah.
One day, maybe this fella will understand. There you go. There you go.
To me, I mean.
I keep apples here because he likes them.
Yeah,
Likes the salt lick, too.
I bet.
Want to feed him one?
Nah, I'm good.
You are allowed to not like horses, but it'd be nice if you're empathetic for the fact that I like horses. You can have as many apples as you want.
All righty, here you go, boy. No, I gotta get going. Why don't you walk on out to pasture, rest a spell?
Oh.
Horses give me the willies.
Can't see why.
Okay. Move manure, milk the goats. Cool. Where... I should know where I'm going. It's my own farm. Very lonely farm. I wonder if the room that we would have shared with Sadie is like kept the same. What are these? Oh, they're rocks with moss. I'm like, why do we have globes in the ground? We don't. We don't have globes. They're rocks. The goat.
You know, back home they call
Is
you
that a-
the pig farmer.
That description is apt.
And yet, you also have goats.
I do
Yeah?
also have goats. And a horse. I
Dog.
had a dog. Tried cows once. Bill raised a newt or
Aw.
something, but well, it died.
Well, most people have, I don't know, chickens and cows. You got goats.
What's wrong with goats?
Is that judgment I hear?
Exactly.
No judgment, no.
No, that is
Just
judgment.
wondering, why goats?
Goat milk.
There can't be much profit in that.
Not everything is about
enough.
profit.
Besides, I had you.
Have. You still have.
As I've said, I'm no longer interested in that particular revenue stream.
We're the ones who sever ties. And you don't want us severing ties.
I believe I made myself clear.
You know, I feel like we've had this conversation a couple of times now, and you still don't seem to get that I'm done with this line is just going to look really silly at the end of the day.
You were asking me about goats.
You can't like force him to change his mind though.
I like them. They like to play. They'll
Yeah, they
eat
do.
Just about anything. The milk's an acquired taste, but I've always liked the cheese. Meat's good with the right curry. A friend taught me that a while back.
So, you like them for the utility?
I like them because they're playful. Want to get started?
Started?
Milking.
Playful goats are really freaking adorable. So much of this character is again like the utility, that's a good word for it, or the productivity. If he doesn't see a point in it, then he doesn't see a point in it, I guess, to be redundant. So anything that is about enjoyment or fulfillment or emotions is like, what's the point? It was the same with the sodas or the soda machines. It was the same with the horses and the goats. It makes me wonder if this is his son. And he, like Billy. Talks about Billy a couple of times, but he doesn't say his relationship to Billy. But it would be weird to talk about your son in third person that way, too. But it makes me wonder if this is his son. Oh, wouldn't that be interesting? And then he's trying to really help his son for the last time. Ooh, that would be a thing. Oh, I gotta sit.
Oh, hey, really? I've always wanted to try that.
You said that earlier.
Here's your chance. My goats are smart. They know what's up, so they'll just walk up.
Hey.
Here they are. Come on. Now they'll just take their positions here like they should. Got feed all ready for them. Just you take a seat there.
Not very comfortable.
You're also in a suit and loafers, so like,
Suppose not.
You weren't prepared for this.
Now that we're seated, all you gotta do is grab the teat with your thumb and forefinger.
And pull?
No, pull.
No.
Rhythmically squeeze with the rest of your fingers. Gently. Pushing the
Gently.
milk out.
Like this?
I didn't push any buttons for
Just
that.
like that, yes. All you gotta do is do that till the goat's out of milk.
Huh. This is kind of nice.
You're so good,
I
girl.
find it relaxing.
Well, I think I could get used to this.
Why don't you?
Say what?
Why not get used to this?
What, and come work with you?
Sure.
Yeah, some folks might take issue with that.
Well, can't make everybody happy. Better
It's
than
true.
ending up shot.
Shoot him. I just said I thought he was your son. Oh, shoot him with milk. Shoot him with milk? Please tell me I'm shooting him with milk. Oh, I am shooting with milk. It took me a little bit to find what buttons.
Gun down. Life over just like that.
You get to shoot back.
Well, we all wind up dead in the end, don't we?
I'd rather live as long as possible.
What good is that?
Living?
What good is living if you ain't happy?
Yeah, quality of life versus quantity.
I'm not.
It could be.
I don't think I could. Well,
Bye.
that does it for the goats.
Still, thinking about what I've been saying?
I haven't stopped.
Changed your mind?
No. No, I have not.
Dude, where's your milk? The fuck? I thought you were milking the goat. Shame. For shame. Feels like a lot of these conversations are about my wife is gone.
What's the
Who knows
wheelbarrow for?
what happened with Bill?
All in what?
Billy. Whatever it is. And the people in my life who made life meaningful are gone. And money's not what makes life meaningful. Because what he's offering is money. He's like, I give you money. And he's like, no, but that's not it. So we can say they were hauling fertilizer, manure, shit, or cow pies. Aren't those all the same fucking thing? Really? Oh, it's not quite fertilizer yet, but I mean, yeah, it is, yeah. Let's just say manure.
Manure.
Ah, and what are we supposed to do with this crap?
We're going to fertilize. Well, not now, it's October, but we're going to put it in a nice big pile where it belongs.
We?
Well, you did say you wanted to help.
I told you, you're not dressed
Well.
for farm life.
Pick up that shovel over there. We'll shovel it in, wheel it out, dump it, and we're good.
And you do this every day.
Mm-hmm. Most every day.
And you want to keep doing this every day.
It's my routine.
Shoveling shit.
Someone's got to do it.
That isn't the first time you've told me that.
I don't think that this character that we're playing wants to do this every day for forever. I think that they are hoping that maybe again, if this is their son, that their son or someone else will take over the farm, because this is future planning. And so it's like, well, I'm gonna get this ready for you in October. That's how this feels. Let's go with, oh yeah, have him tell us about.
Oh, yeah?
Vietnam.
Yeah.
You know, I did some digging on you. Personally, not the shit kind. Know what I found?
I reckon you'll tell me.
You went back.
Go on. Siren, I don't know. They're very Witcher responses.
What happened that day in the valley?
You saw the report. I'm not going to talk about it.
Come
You're just asking someone, tell me about your trauma. You haven't like really created a safe space. They're not ready for it. There is a concept called re-traumatizing where like if someone where someone like has to retell their trauma when they're not ready for it, when it's not exactly a safe space. I'm just saying, like, our character does not want to say this. Let's not force it.
No.
Yeah, no.
Suit yourself.
Consent is important.
You got a medal. You didn't have to go back.
That doesn't mean it wasn't
Like a
traumatizing.
kid here, in a time where most of us were trying to figure out how to stay home, you went back.
You going somewhere with this?
Think it'd be fun if you told me why? While
No.
we're shoveling shit.
I was recon. You know that, I reckon. Was in the hospital, staring at the ceiling. Magazines next to me on the bed.
A revelation.
Uh-huh.
I accidentally
The
skipped through.
revelation was this. Them protesters weren't doing a damn thing. The hippies and the bands weren't changing anything. You know who was?
The Vietnamese? The Russians?
No. The news. You hit someone hard enough day in, day out with the realities of war, pretty soon they'll tire of it. Vietnam, that was our first time that close to war. So, I figured,
You figured.
you ain't the only one of us who's killed people.
Why do you think I offered you that job back in '74?
Turned it down for the same reason I went back. They were telling us our patriotic duty was to go and fight for our country. Well, that's what I did.
You weren't recon when you went back, though.
Went back with a camera. Talked them into letting me help with the press, keeping them safe and all that. So I did. And I took pictures. Took all the pictures I could. I fought in a different way.
In a way that made sense. It wasn't as violent as possible. Oh, finally I could let that go. Where am I pushing this? Oh, I don't pick a direction. I just push it. Thank God. I was like, I don't know where I'm going. I was also trying really hard to figure out how to push the wheelbarrow with that thing in my hand. Oh, the sand. It's not sand. It's for a garden.
We pulled out a NAM, didn't we?
And now you're here. Great big war hero. Shuffling shit.
Yeah. Shoveling shit.
I don't know of a single... I think it's really hard for us to have survived something traumatic and call ourselves a war hero. Like, that has so much positive things, considering
You know
all
what
the
this
negative shit
is?
that usually happens.
Tree?
Well, you ever seen a tree like it?
A tree's a tree.
Remember all them roasted chestnuts at Christmas?
Oh, sure. I mean, I kind of figured. Been by often enough to see the chestnuts myself. Why? Is it special to you?
This is an American chestnut tree.
Oh, hey, Saul. He's
Oh,
telling
shit.
us about his American chestnut tree.
Someone else.
Huh? Thought they all died.
What?
You remembered.
Pays to remember things.
Like the American chestnut.
I'm a little lost here.
Oh, a couple weeks back, Saul came by, said you couldn't make it. Business as usual. Saw I had a bucket of chestnuts, asked if pigs could eat 'em, so we got to talking, and I told him about chestnuts.
Uh-huh. And what did you learn?
Pork tastes better with chestnuts. And most American chestnuts had died off.
It's true. Long before you or I was born, the American chestnut was prized for the quality of its wood.
Jimmy'd like that.
Oh, that he would. But this tree, there ain't many like it left. American chestnuts almost all died out because of the Asian fungus around 1900 or so. The chestnut blight.
That's what, like a couple 100,000 trees?
Oh, billions. 4 billion trees snuffed out practically overnight. Well, lumberjacks suddenly out of work in places like West Virginia. Those economies never recovered.
I thought West Virginia was coal country.
Logging, too, before it all died off. Now there's trees like the General here making nuts year-round. And I feed them to the reds, and they grow nice and fat and tasty.
Seems lonely.
It is
Thank
lonely.
you.
Heartbreakingly lonely. To know everyone else you ever loved has passed on.
There's the
I
connection.
look after him and he looks after me, and I don't know. Sadie and I, we talked about being buried here, you know.
Changed your mind.
Oh.
Brody's grave was enough for me. But, I don't know. I thought about having him moved. I don't know.
You've
Brody.
got plenty of years left in you yet. So, what's the moral of the story? With the trees, I mean.
Be wary of outsiders.
Heck no. There are trees out there that are blight resistant. Maybe even the general here, but I'm too afraid to find out. With enough time and horticultural understanding, we could have done something.
Preserved all these trees?
Maybe we could have. They are magnificent. It's just that... I don't know. I wasn't trying to teach you a lesson or anything.
But you did make a point of it.
I did do that. It's a part of me is all.
Because there's that
God
connection
willing,
to
live for 100
loneliness.
more years. I don't know. I see myself as a custodian of sorts. And one day
Saul, go ahead and wait for me at the van. Hey. Hey. Look at me. You're thinking about dying. Thinking you can pass this responsibility off to someone else. You don't have to do this. Give the tree another decade of your time.
well, the time of my demise aside, someone ought to know about the tree.
Jimmy'd love to know about this.
Oh, Jimmy would cut it down.
He would.
Please. Don't tell him.
Hey, I'm good at keeping secrets, but Jimmy's Jimmy.
Please. Let me rest here. And if there's a way to... Oh, I don't know.
Okay. Hey, you got more to show me, right?
The thing about the blight is true. There's so many real world things in this game that
garage,
feel...
No tour would be complete without the garage.
They make the game feel more real, I guess.
Why a sports truck?
I think they're called coupe utility, but, I mean, why not a sports car?
Yeah, I mean, I always figured you'd have a midlife crisis like the rest of us. Sports car, motorcycle, an affair, something
Wow.
like that.
Couldn't
Not with
really
the way
say
that he
why I
talks
loved
about
it
Sadie.
So much. Saw mine one day, fell in love.
With that.
Had to bring her home with me.
I'll admit, it has a charm to it.
But she won't run.
No? Well, pop the hood. Let's take a look.
You're serious?
Sure, already had my midlife crisis.
Motorcycle?
Sports car. And these puppies, well, you know, they're similar enough. Some of them even use the same engine. We can figure this out.
All right.
Looks like it would have a big bow tie on the front. You're like conveniently blocking. Okay, I'm trying to go to the driver's side door. What am I hitting? Nothing. The game doesn't want me to go from this side.
Now, let's see here. Can you get me that drop light?
Okay.
My eyes aren't what they were.
Touch it. Ugh. I am a trying.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Saul's a good kid.
What's that?
Saul was a good kid. I like him. It was nice him coming by.
Yeah? That's good to hear. Never met anyone with so
Oh, that's the
much
protege.
Never?
in my entire life. Saul's dad was a good man. Didn't think his kid had it. As a boy, he was too soft. But then he got
Too
older,
soft.
graduated college, really came into his own. Eager, more capable than he knows.
Great listener.
Can you believe we were his age once?
Hard to admit.
When I was young, I thought I knew everything.
Yeah? And now?
Today, I learned from you and him about chestnuts.
Well, learn something new every day, I suppose. You check the spark plugs?
Give me a second. What about your boy?
Yeah,
Bill? Oh, he's fine, I guess.
I guess.
You guess. Hey, how old is he again?
Born in 60, so, 32 as of September.
Huh. Roy would have been about his age.
Yeah?
Yeah. Wow. What's this about you and Bill?
Oh, he don't want to talk to me no more.
Wow,
Why?
Bill? Tow-headed little guy, always friendly and outgoing. That Bill?
What happened?
It's about Sadie.
Ah.
Yeah.
Hey, mind if I ask you a completely unrelated question?
You already are.
What's with the airplanes at your neighbor's place?
Oh, Chuck's farm?
Chuck? Huh. Yeah, what's with all the planes? There's no runway around here.
You know how farmers are. Hey, have you checked the air filter?
Yeah. And yeah, I know how you are. You got plenty of junk too, but I've never seen anyone else with, what are they, World War II bombers or something?
I think he has a B-36.
No kidding.
You got no idea what a B-36 is, have you?
Yeah,
No.
have the foggiest.
Well, a B-36 is a big old bomber made out of magnesium. Biggest America ever had. Took 2 train tankers to fill one up.
What?
He could fly from Monday to Thursday without refueling.
So why does Chuck have one in his backyard, plus all the others?
Asked him about that once.
Okay. Wire's loose here.
All you've been doing is staring at it.
Right there. So, what'd he say?
Oh, dead navigator came to him in a dream.
What?
What?
Dead navigator from the Korean War came to him in a dream, said the planes were in danger of being lost, and it was up to Chuck to save them.
So, Chuck's crazy.
Well, eccentric maybe, but, well. Do you believe in ghosts?
Where are those
If
plates?
I did, I'd have a different job. Why, do you?
Well, I figure we all move on in some way. Energy is neither created nor lost and all that.
So you're saying a dead navigator
Very
came to a
Full Metal
farmer
Alchemist.
in the middle of nowhere, no offense, and told him that it was his job to preserve airplanes?
Yep.
So now there's a bunch of planes on a crazy coot's farm.
And he keeps them safe. Can you think of a better place for him to be?
Well, want to try running it?
He doesn't have an answer for that. Sure or not, I trust you. Sure. I mean,
Sure.
why not?
All right.
Ugh, I get stuck on that. Can you just move it? Duh. Start trying.
Turn over, you son of a bitch.
Wow.
Looks like she'll give you a few more years yet. Yeah. Remember Slick?
Sure.
He always wanted one of these.
Where is he now?
Fighting Saddam. Jimmy tried to find out. Classified, I heard.
Good kid.
Angry.
Well, maybe when he gets back.
Thinking of giving him the car is what?
He's
thanks for
gonna
service?
he's gonna be doing that for quite a few years if this is like 93. Same.
That boy's seen more hurt than any of us. Deserves better than that old Pinto is.
Yeah. Well, where to next?
Let's turn off the car. Let's not leave the car running. There's so many war references in this game that I was not prepared for, not expecting. Oh my god, we have a shotgun.
Shotguns, huh?
I always liked shotguns.
Liked?
Still do.
I like revolvers myself, when it's for sport.
Got
Oh,
a few
don't-
of those.
Don't point it at
What's
someone.
your favorite?
Them big slap
Gun
back
safety.
ones. They have a charisma. What about you?
Nothing special, really. 357s when I can. But this is a shotgun.
I'm aware.
Figured we could shoot some skeet. Always liked shooting skeet. Taught Bill to shoot this way.
You're a good father.
Could have been better.
Name a father that couldn't. So,
Also hard to connect with your kid
who's going first?
when the idea of like it could have been about a father and like kicking himself for like not connecting with his son as much. If we've never seen that modeled for us, it's really hard to do that. And it kind of goes back to the idea of generational trauma too. We just see at every turn this other character trying so hard to prove to us that we have things to live for, that we have reasons. It doesn't even feel like reasons to live necessarily, but more like reasons why we shouldn't make the choice not to leave the mob, because that is connected to reasons to live. And at every single turn, we're basically like, I don't care what you say. I have no idea how much of this game is left, so this feels like a good place to stop. Like I said before, I don't feel as though this character is inherently suicidal, as in I don't feel as though they are seeking out to die first and foremost. I feel as though they don't want to do this thing, but like, I don't want to dispose of bodies for you anymore. Fair, totally fair. But because that comes with the mob, or because that means like leaving the mob, I think that they know that that comes with death. Could we say that that is suicidal? I guess that feels debatable. And like, I'm not going to argue that. I guess like this is just how I see it. And I think that it feels easier. Like this is where I feel like society kind of debates this stuff, in the sense that we do in some areas have things like physician-assisted suicide. And physician-assisted suicide is usually something that is legally okay in the areas that it is okay in. If something has a terminal medical diagnosis, something like that. Then there could be other legal aspects to that I'm just not aware of. Physician-assisted suicide is also something that is not legal everywhere. So I'm sure that there are nuances depending on like what area of the world or state we're talking about. But to me, that kind of feels like this idea of, if we're at the end of our life, the age where we kind of know that we've lived a full life, I feel like society tends to look at that as almost more acceptable if we don't live any longer. It's almost this idea of, if someone were to die and it was a kid versus someone in their 80s or 90s, society almost looks at the kid's death as being like more tragic because they didn't have the chance or the opportunity to live a full life. And I'm not saying that these things are good or bad viewpoints by any means, but I feel like these are the things that kind of play into why I don't see this character being suicidal first and foremost. Could it be that I, as a player, just don't want to see them that way because of the stigma with that? Maybe, and I'll own that. Regardless of that idea, the game does talk so much about the emotions involved. Maybe the reason why they are okay with this is because they are lonely. The word loneliness has been brought up so much, and we are built for connection. And the trauma that they've experienced, and the idea that they don't have very many supports anymore. And I get the feeling of tiredness. There's so much emotionally with this game. When I looked up this game, like Steam recommended it, and I was like, I guess it looks interesting. The reviews look promising. There's actually one review that I read the review, and I was like, I don't know anything else about this game, but this review is making me buy this, unquestioningly. And the review said something like, this game lets me shoot a shotgun, but the real weapon is melancholy. And I can see that now. I would love to hear your thoughts on the game and the video, and I will see you next time.